All right, as promised, here he is, Steve Phillips, our baseball insider. Steve, it came out Monday night. Jose Berrios, drafted by the Minnesota Twins, is going to be facing the Minnesota Twins in Game 2 of this series. Curious to get your thoughts on that decision.
Yeah, I probably would have gone with Chris Bassitt as the Game 2 starter. I just think he's more predictable than Jose Berrios. And I think one of the things for Berrios, like, I love him, and I think he's a great competitor. I like his stuff. He's a fine pitcher. He's a very emotional guy, and I like it about him, but it's also something that gets him into a little bit of trouble. He overthinks, overtries sometimes, and sometimes his emotions get the best of him, and certainly the emotions pitching in a playoff game are going to be huge already. The idea of doing it against your former team, another bit of a challenge. So I probably would have pushed into Game 3, gone with Bassitt in Game 2, and hope that I could finish the series off in 2 games and save Berrios to start Game 1 of the division series. They're going in a different direction. He's had a great year, and he's certainly worthy of a Game 2 start. I just would have gone in a different direction.
It is amazing, Steve, how evenly matched on paper these two teams seem to be. Just 2 wins separating the two of them over 162 regular season games. Who has the advantage, in your opinion?
You know, it's interesting. Both of them have, top flight pitching. They're right at the top of the American League in pitching and ERA. They both are scored a fair number of runs. There are only 20 runs separate the two of them over a 162-game season. They do it a little bit differently, though. The Minnesota Twins are a power-laden offense. They drive the ball out of the ballpark, and it's really turned on in the second half of the season. And they've scored the most runs in the month of September. But they are a team that is prone to the strikeout. They've got the most strikeouts in the American League. A lot of swing and miss when they're trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark. And so the key for the Jays pitchers, keep the ball in the yard and get swings and misses, get strikeouts. When runners in scoring position, you've got to go for the strikeout. Do not let productive outs happen. Don't let them put the ball in play. And I think that's going to be critical for the Blue Jays. Swings and misses on the Minnesota Twins hitters.
The Blue Jays had a bit of an epic collapse last year at the Dome, so they start this series on the road. Maybe, Steve, is this potentially an advantage for this Blue Jays team?
I think you look for everything to motivate a team, to manage a team, and the mental part of the game is so underrated. And I think for players, when they come back to a moment similar to where they've been before, they re-feel it. They feel it over again. And so the idea that it's playoff time again, if they were starting a wild card series at home in the Rogers Center, I think it could have brought back some of those negative feelings. Now what they're feeling is they're remembering the fact that this year they went to Minnesota. They took 2 out of 3 on the road there, and they've got those positive thoughts. I think the other thing, on the other side for Minnesota, they've lost 18 straight playoff games. Going back to 2004, they have not won a playoff game since 2004. Now, it's a lot of different players, in fact, all different players, but they get asked the same question. How come you guys can't win in the playoffs? How come you can't do it? And I think that plants a seed, and when something goes wrong, they start to think, this could be the thing that keeps us from winning this game today. The mental part of the game is so important.
Steve, it's so funny how a year ago people talked about how the Jays needed to solidify that rotation, solidify that bullpen, improve the defense. Those are really the 3 pillars that have gotten this particular team to the postseason. Is it a recipe for a long playoff run, do you think?
Well, good pitching can shut down good hitting. There's no question about that. And making plays behind them, absolutely critical. Swings and misses are nice, as we talked about. But the offense has to score enough, and that's where this offense needs to step up. They've started and stopped. They've started and stopped. Just haven't hit that where they've been all rolling together. I think the key in this series are the left-handed hitters. Brandon Belt coming back off the injury list with that back, he's crushing it. Dalton Varsho heating up a little bit. Kevin Biggio's been terrific, both offensively and defensively. I think if the left-handed bats go against the right-handed pitchers, the Blue Jays offense can start to motor. I think that's going to be critical in this series.
Game 1 will be Tuesday afternoon, and on tomorrow's edition of SportsCenter with Jay Onrait, Steve Phillips will join me to break down that performance by the Blue Jays. We'll talk to you then, Steve. Thanks.
Thanks, Jay.